Gang Territory, Chapter 5, Part 3, Cucumber Salad. Just as the clock indicated the moment for the afternoon break, there came a knock on the door. Miss Hanger entered. She held a brief whispered conversation with Huffy and then left again. The bell rang for the break. We all stood, and as Huffy gave permission for us to leave, she looked at me and said, "Not you. You can sit down again." What had I done this time? Had somebody seen me climbing onto the roof of the coke shed? Had I been denounced for going through the strictly private door into the allotments? All I wanted was a quiet life, but trouble seemed to follow me everywhere. Fortunately, this turned out not to be trouble. "Right," said Huffy in a friendly tone. "Miss Hanger needs someone to help tidy her cupboard. Go along to her study and tell her I sent you." I did as I was bid, glad of this unexpected task. It would keep me out of the way of the slug and his mates during the break. I tapped confidently on the study door. "Ah, come in," said Miss Hanger genially. "It's the library cupboard I want tidied." She opened two floor-to-ceiling doors, which formed almost one whole wall of her study, to reveal a great many books of all sizes stacked neatly on shelves. Here and there on the shelves, attached to little movable clips, were labels with titles such as history, geography, zoology, and the like. "It's got into rather a mess," she said, "what with being short-handed because of the war. I want you to sort the books by category according to each label and then place them on the shelves by category. Move each label so that it is in line with the left edge of the spine of the first book in its category. If you're not sure as to which category a book belongs, place it on one side and we'll determine its category together later. Is all that clear?" "Yes, Miss Hanger, but first I've got to—" Yes, of course," she said, before I'd even finished what I was going to say. She was pretty quick, for an adult, at grasping things. "But make haste." She let me out of her private door into the yard. I ran across to the boys. She watched me all the way. No opportunity this time to practice topping the wall. She was still watching from her door as I came out and sprinted back a minute later. "Right," she said briskly, "to work. If you're not finished by the time the bell rings, you can come back again at the end of school." I started systematically pulling books out, glancing at their title and or contents, and then putting them back on a shelf as appropriate. There were many books, and it looked as though it was going to be a long job. To my surprise, most of the books I looked at seemed to be correctly placed in their category. Perhaps it wouldn't be such a long job as I thought. Even so, I had not completed even the length of one shelf before the bell rang for the end of the break. I stood a book with its spine towards the back of the cupboard to mark where I had got up to, closed the cupboard, and went back to my class. When the end of school bell rang, I waited in my place till my classmates had all filed out. Then I went to Miss Hanger's study and tapped on the door. She opened it, looked down at me with a puzzled expression, and said, "Yes? What is it?" I was surprised at this reception. "The cupboard, miss, the books." "Oh, yes, I'd forgotten. How far did you get?" "Oh, not very far. I marked the place with a book." She opened the cupboard door, and I showed her. Nearly all the books I looked at seemed to be in the right place, and the labels were correctly placed too. "Oh, then somebody must have already tidied the cupboard," she said. "I seem to be getting forgetful." She shut the cupboard. "Do you like books?" "Oh, very much. There was a huge library at the convent, and the nuns at the orphanage let me borrow as much as I liked, but I could only go there on Sundays. You've got some books in the cupboard I'd like to read. Could I borrow them?" "I'm afraid not. These books are for reference by the staff and are not to leave the school." She saw the disappointment on my face. "But we'll see. I'll talk to the board. Perhaps something can be arranged." She glanced at her watch and said, "I think it's about time for you to go now. Go back to your classroom to fetch your Bertrand Russell and your cucumber, then I'll let you out like yesterday." "My Bertrand Russell?" I repeated, perplexed, not knowing what she meant. "Your book." Oh, yes." It was only as I was walking down the corridor back to her study that the thought struck me. The cupboard was only an excuse to keep me out of the yard away from Snailer. And then another thought. How did she know about my book and the cucumber? Was she clairvoyant? She seemed to see everywhere. Entering her office, the idea came to me to offer her my cucumber. I held it up. "Do you like cucumber, Miss Hanger?" "Oh, my goodness! Are you offering me a cucumber now?" "Yes, Miss Hanger, if you'd like it. It's a particularly good one." "That's a most generous offer, and I very much appreciate it. But you know, I don't really care for cucumbers, or rather cucumbers don't care for me. Why don't you give it to your aunt? I feel sure she'd like that." Personally, I was less sure, but I said nothing and slipped out by the private door towards the little churchyard gate, clutching my book and the cucumber. As soon as I reached Fernside, I put Why Men Fight back on the shelf where I had found it. It was too hard for me to understand properly. I went to check, before my aunt got home, the weeding that I had done so skimpily that morning, and pulled out one or two more weeds that I had overlooked. I placed them in full view on the compost heap, where she would be sure to see them when she put her bicycle away. Then there was the table to lay. I also had to lift some potatoes and peel them, cut and wash a cabbage, and put both on to boil at 6:45. I made a face of dislike. Yuck! Boiled potatoes and cabbage. Then I had a bright idea. I'd make a cucumber salad for starters. That would at least provide something tasty. Better get busy. All went well, and at 7:05 my aunt came into the house. I was waiting excitedly for her to discover the cucumber sandwich. "Hello, Aunt. How was the office today?" "What are you so cheerful about?" she asked grumpily. "If you really want to know, I've had a rotten day. Nothing went right." I waited expectantly for the moment when she saw the salad. "That will cheer her up," I said to myself. Suddenly she saw it and bent down to peer at it closely. "Huh! What's this?" "It's a cucumber salad. I made it especially for you. I hope you like it." "I detest cucumber. It gives me indigestion." She looked at me suspiciously. "Where did you get it? I'm sure you didn't buy it." "A man gave it to me." "A man? What man?" "Oh, just a man," I said vaguely, wanting her to leave the matter at that. "What do you mean, just a man? Who is this man? I've told you already, you're not to talk to strange men." I wanted to end this sterile and frustrating exchange, but if I told her that it was Dummy who gave me the cucumber, she might forbid me ever to talk to him again, and that could complicate matters. "He's a friend of Mrs. King's," I said finally. "He gave her a cucumber too." "Oh, I suppose that's all right then," she said doubtfully. Then she repeated sharply, "You're not to talk to strange men. Do you hear me now?" "I won't, Aunt," I replied, but then, thinking that Dummy was very strange indeed, I added, "I won't talk to anybody I don't know." I sighed. The instructions of adults are not always easy for children to follow. My aunt took the dish of cucumber salad and handed it to me. "Now, go outside and throw this disgusting mess on the compost heap." I went slowly down the path with the cucumber dish in my hand towards the compost heap at the bottom of the garden. I reflected on the unfairness of life. I lifted a round, green, tasty slice of cucumber to my mouth. Anyone who expected life to be fair simply couldn't see straight. I bit into the cucumber slice. It was crispy and satisfyingly delicious. The important thing about life was not to expect fairness, but to savour the moment. Even Dummy knew that. I bit into another succulent slice. It was good. "What are you daydreaming about out there?" cried my aunt from the back door. "Hurry back in. The vegetables are getting cold on the table. I've brought home a tin of pressed beef to go with them." "Oh, yuck," I said under my breath, then added a gurgling vomiting sound. Ugh. I looked in the direction of the allotments and muttered, "Thank you, Mr. Pierce, for the cumber." I turned and ran back to the house. "I'm coming, Aunt." Before getting into bed that night, I thought about why some people, film stars for instance, are rich and have lots of good things, and why others, like Dummy, are poor and have almost nothing. It didn't seem right to me. I felt sorry for Dummy, so I asked God about it. "Dummy gave you and Margie a cucumber each, didn't he?" came the response. "What did you think about that?" It seemed to me pretty good, and the cucumber found a neat use in keeping Slim at bay. "Have you ever been given a cucumber by a film star?" came the inner question. I had to admit that no, I hadn't, and Margie had probably never received a gift from a film star either. Then it dawned on me that, as far as Margie and I were concerned, Dummy was richer than any film star. His pleasure in offering the gift probably made him feel rich too. I gave 3 silent cheers for Dummy and looked forward to meeting him again soon. "Hey, thanks God. It's pretty neat discussing things with you. See you tomorrow."